Hi everyone, we are from Group 4, want to present about COVID-19 and its impact on industrial relation in Malaysia. Before we proceed further, let's know our group members. First, we have AMMAR bin AZHAR, AFNAN bin RAHIM, Nizamudin bin Mohd Wazir, FIKRY bin ZAINAL, and the last one, TAUFIQ bin JALALUDin.
Before we delve any further into the topic, we must first understand what happened. So what happened was COVID-19, and COVID-19 is a global pandemic caused by a severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, and the new virus was first identified in Wuhan City, China as early as 31st December 2019. And there were attempts made to contain the virus but ultimately failed, and as of April 2020, the virus has spread to over 210 countries. The World Health Organization declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30th of January 2020, followed soon by the pandemic on 11 March 2020. The pandemic has caused many social and economic disruption all around the globe, including the largest global-wide recession since the Great Depression. Due to the supply chain disruption caused by the pandemic, there were widespread supply shortages, including food shortages and medical equipment shortages. There were also issues raised regarding racial and geographic discrimination, health equity, and the balance of public health and individual rights. These things triggered the Malaysian government response to COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic, as it is a global health crisis affecting many countries including Malaysia, the population now are faced with multiple challenges, from the direct risk of illnesses and health imposed by the virus itself to the indirect repercussion brought up from the action of the containment of the virus. In general, these responses include the Malaysian Movement Control Order, also known as the partial lockdown, and it is a major step taken by the Malaysian government to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. The MCO prohibits mass movement and gathering nationwide and demands the closure of all business premises apart from the essential. These essential include manufacturers, suppliers, retailers, and food outlets. And the order also include travel restriction, with sanction required for all Malaysian travelling overseas, as well as continued screening and 14-day quarantine for returning Malaysian. Additionally, all foreign visitors are prohibited from entering Malaysia. This followed soon by the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, abbreviated as the NIP, is a national vaccination campaign that is being implemented by the Malaysian government in their fight against COVID-19 pandemic. The NIP objective is to achieve the highest immunization rate amongst Malaysian citizens and non-citizens. In this paper, we will discuss the issues that arise from the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of industrial relation, the involved party, its reason and root cause, its impact and its implication, and relating back to the cause, concept and principle. By defining the concept, there are two main concepts that is being used here. The first is the COVID-19 itself. The COVID-19 is an acute respiratory illness in human caused by a coronavirus, capable of producing severe symptoms and in some cases even death, especially in older people and those with underlying health condition. And the second is the industrial relation itself. The industrial relation refers to a relationship between the employer and the employees, and it also refers to a field of study that examines these type of relationship, especially groups of workers in union.
The first issue highlighted is job loss during COVID-19. Pandemic COVID-19 has caused numerous organizations to lay off personnel. This include AZHAR, which must lay off workers to stay operating. Bernama 2020 reports that AZHAR may fire off more than 300 employees to streamline operation after the COVID-19 epidemic. CEO Riyad Asmat said 111 of 1,900 cabin personnel, 172 pilots, and 50 engineers will be let go. Riyadh said reorganizing the company was considered as a viable option owing to the difficult scenario because there were no other option to ensure the low-cost carrier continue to operate as before. According to a report, AZHAR X will lay off foreign workers too. No amount of layoff has been mentioned, but management, operation, personnel, and pilot will be affected. So the second issue highlighted is vaccine hesitancy. According to Muhammad Kahirul Ashraf Muhammad Khalid, handling non-vaccinated staff should be reasonable and responsible. Kamarul Bahari Mansoor, Secretary General of the Malaysian Trade Unions Congress (MTUC), said businesses had a responsibility to be sensitive to employees who could not get vaccinated. Because the government does not require people to get vaccinated, a company cannot use an employee's refusal to get vaccinated as a justifiable reason to dismiss them or put them at danger of getting sick. The government has allowed flexibility to the duty to tax vaccine, so company could not use vaccine as a basis for disciplinary action, such as overstating the issue. Kamarul Baharin advocated that the government adopt a standard operating procedure (SOP) for how employees should be managed. Employees who refuse to the vaccination at work. All employers must follow these guidelines. This SOP guides both employees and employers in problem solving, he added. Don't let corporation and employees to manage this issue without government direction. MTUC was a rapid decision on vaccination because it will affect employment and society, such as permitting people for divorce for vaccine-related reasons. His political party pushed personnel to be vaccinated so everyone might benefit and feel at more ease. The third issue highlighted are reduced working hour and unpaid leave. Pandemic COVID-19 reduced working hours. According to Nur Hazika A. Malik, 60% of Malaysians have experienced income cuts, fewer hours working, and a harder job hunt because of a COVID-19 pandemic. According to the report, this is slightly lowered Malaysian economic optimism. Only 21% of Malaysians expect the economy to improve in the next 6 months, and 19% expect their own financial status to improve. 1 year after the outbreak began, the current Asia Vice Pacific President of Learning and Talent Solution, Fion Ang, said many Malaysians still suffer with job loss and uncertainty. And Ang highlighted that certain positive has surfaced as a result of the crisis, including the fact that Malaysians are seeking for new opportunities. 20% of Malaysians have started their own enterprise, and 30% volunteer to give safety products such as sanitizer and masks for their communities. In Malaysia, also employees were forced to take unpaid leave and pay cuts during COVID-19 MCO. COVID-19 has caused mayhem worldwide, said Lim Jit Kyong. Malaysia implemented the MCO on 18 March 2020 to evade COVID-19 pandemic. Business were affected during MCO. Several companies demanded unpaid leave and wage reduction. During the critical MCO time, an employer may require an employee to take unpaid leave or a compensation cut. If the employee does not consent to the employer unilateral action without a contract, the employer has terminated the employment contract and employee had been contractually terminated. Any incorrect wages reduction by an employer is a repudiation of employment contract in Malaysia, allowing the employee to consider himself constructively fired.
Hey everyone, right now me and AFNAN will explain the COVID-19 industrial relations with our related chapter. The first chapter related to the issues is chapter 2, which is about wage reduction and job loss. During the pandemic, AZHAR indeed had to lay off a huge number of employees in order to simplify operations following the difficult situation caused by the COVID-19. In this case, employers cannot fire their employees arbitrarily regardless of existing labor laws. In Malaysian labour laws, only a small number of deductions from an employee's paycheck are legal. A deduction of more than 50% of an employee's monthly compensation cannot be taken unless the amount to be deducted includes the repayment of a mortgage. However, certain deductions can be made by the employers. For example, recovering wages overpaid in the immediately preceding 3 months prior to the month of deductions, making payment to the employees, Provident Fund, Social Security Organisation and Inland Revenue Board, and lastly, recovering advances where no interest is charged. That is how strict the labour law is in Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Muhammad AFNAN bin Abdul Rahim and I will continue the presentation about my part, that is working hours and leave. In this part, I will talk about maximum working hours and annual leave and sick leave. According to the Act, the maximum working hours per day that can be required on an employee are 8. With overtime, this can be increased to 12. Overtime is voluntary in most circumstances. When the Covid-19 pandemic struck, everything is changed in an instant, including the field of work. This is because all employees must work from home and online during the Movement Control Order (MCO). This is because working hours have become limited due to the movement control that have been set by the government. According to the bernama.com, the implementation of the MCO does not mean they get free leave. Regular work has to be done, but the implementation is by working from home and it is not easy. During MCO, business operating hours will be also limited from 8 AM until 8 PM only. No dine-ins are allowed. This caused the shopping period for the working community to be short because their working hours end at 5 or 6 o'clock. The second point is about annual leave and sick leave. Employees are only entitled to annual leave once they complete a year of service. However, there are employees who will permit their workers some annual leave in the first year of service. The duration of annual leave granted to workers depend on their length of service with their employer. A further benefit to which employees are entitled under the Employment Act is paid sick leave. Before they can avail themselves of this privilege, they must undergo an examination by a registered medical practitioner appointed by the employer, known as a panel doctor, and be certified unfit for work by the doctor. After the COVID-19 pandemic, some firms require employees who have been quarantined because of COVID-19 to use their annual leave. According to the website of the Ministry of Human Resources, employers cannot force employees to use annual leave because the order was made under the Prevention and Control of Infection Disease Act 1988. Most of the employees who were affected by the disease, they were forced to use their leave for quarantine. That's all from me. I will pass back to Ramdan. Thank you.
Next, we're moving on to the chapter 5, which is trade union. According to the issue that arises, it can be said that the Malaysian Trade Unions Congress (MTUC) plays a very vital, if contentious, role in countries' industrial relation system, especially in the era of COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, the MTUC role is often misunderstood. For example, a senior government official was saying that the MTUC has no right to introduce politics into the labour movement and it goes against the grain of what a trade union is supposed to do. But according to the Registry of Society, MTUC does not belong to any trade union and free to make a move. Moreover, unions can also join the MTUC. For your information, MTUC has pushed workers in triangle organization like the National Labour Advisor (AKMAL) and the Employees Provident Fund Board. The MTUC defends workers' interests and help other groups in need. Hence, it is very crucial for them to speak out the voice of the workers to defend them during the COVID-19 outbreak. That is all from me. Now, I will pass the slide to the next presenter.
Alright, thank you Ramdan. Hi everyone. I will proceed for the suggestion and recommendation to manage the issue discussed. For the first issue, it was discussed by TAUFIQ, which was the job loss during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our group suggests 3 suggestions for this problem. First, every job seeker or employee must build a talent exchange. This implementation can help us increase transparency about employment opportunity and facilitate relocation. Second, the recommendation to avoid job loss is to retrain to work faster on a larger scale. It is because when an employee has such skill, then is one of the advantages for himself. Third, on the part of the government should build government-supported resettlement and resettlement incentive. The government may encourage more important reform that will help revamp the economy and further boost economic recovery in the country. Alright, let's move on for the second issue. The second issue is the issue of the vaccination. To resolve the issue, employers should take the initiative for their employees to be vaccinated. There are various initiatives the employers can take to resolve the issue. Among them, employers can introduce requirement for vaccination in employment contract. Further, the employer also has the right to force the employee to comply for the greater good. Next, employees can also provide the transportation assistance for the employees to go to the vaccination center for the employees who have the transportation problem. Last issue that has been highlighted in this study is reduced working hour and unpaid leave. As an employee, we must know that an employer is required by law to pay all the wages earned at least the minimum wage, regardless of whether a collective bargaining agreement or an individual contract stipulates a higher or lower sum. According to this definition, regardless of the method used to set the minimum wage, it is legally obligatory figure, which boards and council as well as the industrial and labor courts is tribute and tribunal can all play a role in determining minimum wages. That's all from me. I will pass back to the AMMAR. Thank you.
To conclude, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected many people worldwide, both directly and indirectly, causing many issues in industrial relations in Malaysia. Issues like job loss, vaccination hesitancy, and reduced working hour are unavoidable and are products of multiple external factors that are outside of normal control. Nevertheless, these issues have strained the relationship between the employee and the employee. And as we know, good industrial relationship between the employee and employee are imperative to good economic, social, and political sphere in our society. Organization with strained industrial relation will face many problems, and such an atmosphere will always plague with industrial unrest, which may spill into strikes and lockout. Ignoring this risk may cause an organization to face a higher cost of production, lower productivity, and lower profit. And with that said, there is no all-encompassing approach or solution that will solve all these problems anytime soon. While it may seem cruel that these tragedies are befalling many employees at the same time, giving too much focus to these ethical issues may cause more harm than good. Especially, our opponent this time is a virus who strikes indiscriminately. However, it isn't like the employees were left to their own devices to fend for themselves. Since the pandemic started, the government has been scrambling to save the economy from completely collapse by introducing numerous monetary schemes and programs to stimulate the economy and prevent more people from falling out from the line. However, these measures are only temporary and a proper long-term solution needs to be put in place